2. I'm struck dumb like an idiot. I haven't heard a girl's voice in so long it takes time to sink in. I understand enough to sense danger, though. I drop my board and take off for the safety of the tea trees. She's on to the idea now, and so is Rowdy, all three of us belting up the dunes, sending sand flying into the air behind us. We reach the top and dive under the overhang. The girl's got me by the arm and she's not letting go. I peer out and see 5 of them. Wilders. I've steered clear of gangs like this when I've come across them north of the fence lines. As far as I know, they haven't ventured into town before. These are big blokes. No guns, but carrying long bits of wood. Looks like knives taped to the ends. It's no secret which way we've taken off, with all our tracks all the way up the dune like a big sign saying, "Up here, up here!" I see them start to climb, lumbering like, slow. They're not real smart either. They don't split up and try to head us off, like dogs on the scent of a feed, all running together in a pack. I know I've got them covered, but I don't get cocky. I've always had a plan for this. Head for the bush upriver, lead them away from home, get into the thick mimosa and stay low, then double back home after dark. She's still got me by the arm, the girl, hanging on like a leech. Even in the panic, I think how strange it feels to have someone touching me. So I look at her and say, "Keep up," and start running again. Rowdy bolts ahead like it's a big game, and the girl's matching me stride for stride, doing it easy by the looks. I've got 100 metres on them by the time they fight their way out into the open. I slow a bit because I want them to see us. I've got to draw them away from the home. I hear them yelling and hollering, probably thinking they're onto us. I reckon we've got them beat when I hear it. It takes a while to sink in through my thick head because I haven't heard that noise in so long it's like an echo. A motor. I look up and there's another big bastard on a trail bike weaving his way through the tussock grass and coming straight for us. He's got a metal stake in his hand and he's holding it like a tennis racket. We're running out of options. I don't think we'll make it to the mudflats. I look to the girl, her eyes wide, and I say one thing. Swim. I run to the bank of the river and wade out into the current. She's beside me and Rowdy's next to her. The tide's coming in, so as soon as we get into deep water, it starts to sweep us along. We keep stroking hard so we can get to the other bank well short of the bridge. The girl swims like a mullet. She's climbing the bank by the time I get there and reaching down to me. She's streaming wet, all her clothes sticking to her bones, and she's looking at me kind of fierce and needy at the same time. I take her hand, and it's strong. The Wilders are jumping up and down on the other side like they've never seen a river before. Rowdy clambers up the bank and shakes himself dry. No time for resting, though, and we take off into the scrub, heading for the hills. I lead us up to the ridge above the football ground, where I stop and look back down to the river, watching and working out what they're going to do. Eventually, they walk towards the road bridge, the trail bike moving ahead of the pack. They cross slowly, maybe wary of being ambushed. It doesn't look as though they're going to track us right away. The trail bike circles back to them, and they spend a long time standing around and pointing up towards the ridge. The sun's getting low by the time they give up, lazy bastards. And I see them heading north towards the fences, where I'm guessing they came from. The girl's staring at me now, backing away. "What's your name?" she says, out of breath. She has an accent I've never heard before. "Finn," I say, and the name sounds funny. I haven't said it in so long. "Finn?" she says, stretching the I sound out. "Yeah." "Why do you speak like that?" "Like what?" I say. "Growly." There's no time to explain now. The sun's gone when I get to my feet. I wait for a bit to see what she's going to do before I start walking home. I hear her following me, kind of stop-start like she's not sure. Rowdy's padding along next to her as though he's known her all his life. "I'm Rose," she says at last. There are words running around inside my head, but I can't get them to come out right, so I don't say anything. I just turn around to look at her. She's maybe 18 or 19, though it's hard to tell because her black hair is so long and wild, and her clothes are too big for her. Her skin is dark, like she might be Indian, and her arms and legs are covered in cuts and scratches and scars. She's got a rag tied around one hand with blood seeping through it. It's a standoff. Her hair keeps falling over her face, but her eyes are sharp like knives. "You live here?" she asks. "Maybe. Where'd you come from?" I can see her trying to figure out what I'm saying, piecing the words together. "North," she says. "Wilder country?" She nods. "You a Wilder?" "Do I look like a Wilder to you? I escaped from them and I'm never going back." The night is closing in. Even though I've still got my wetsuit on, the wind is cutting through me. She's shivering too. I make a sign for her to follow me down the track towards town. A strange sort of silence comes over us. I'm trying to put together everything that's happened since I paddled out for my surf. I've made decisions without having time to think them through. The last 2 winters, I've had nothing but time. But today, everything has changed in a couple of hours. I can hear Rose behind me as we make our way down from the ridge. I'm still wary of the Wilders being about, tricking us into leading them to my place, so I take a roundabout route, scouting along the banks of the river, keeping low until we get to the flats by the mouth. We're lying in the tussock grass when she crawls up next to me, almost on top of me. Close up, she looks like she's been living rough. There are little bits of twigs and leaves caught in her hair, and the smell of her. It's something I'd almost forgotten about. The smell people have. I could always tell when Mum had been in a room just by the smell she left behind. It must have been the deodorant she used, or the perfume. And I loved its sweetness and the way it seemed to just hang in the air. Dad too, though he was different. There was linseed oil from all the old furniture he used to work on in the shed. And two-stroke. The smells from the hardware, rope and paint and fertiliser. Somehow he seemed to carry all of them around with him. And now here's this girl, Rose. And she stinks like piss and sweat, a bit like the smell of the melaleucas after it's been raining for a few days and the leaves on the ground have started to rot. "What do you think?" she says, pointing to the river mouth. In my mind, I'm trying out the words before I say them. "They could be trying to trick us," I say. I clear my throat and try some more. "Could have doubled back on their tracks watching for us." I'm on a roll now. Like I'm discovering a new language and I can't use enough of it. "I reckon we wait until it gets darker and then cross at the mouth. The tide's turned, so we should be able to wade across. We'll be out in the open, though." She has this unnerving way of looking straight at me while I'm talking. I figure she's trying to read my lips. "I don't know what you just said, but if you can point to where we're going, that'd be good," she says. Again, there's an accent I can't place. It's sort of sing-song, like she rolls the words over on top of each other. I point to the other side of the river. "My place is back up the hill, on the other side of town. Once we get over the river, we'll be sweet. There's lots of cover." "Okay," she nods. "We have to cross the river and go up the hill, so we will wait till it gets darker." She makes it sound like it's her idea. She turns onto her back and then buries herself down in the tussocks. We're up above the high tide mark, so the sand is dry and soft. "Thanks," she says, "for helping me. Didn't have much choice, did I?" It sounds harder than I mean it to. "I mean," I say, "not with the Wilders and all. Bastards, that lot." She turns to me and I see how dark her eyes are. Dark and shaped like almonds. She doesn't hold my gaze, staring down at the sand like she's embarrassed. We lie like this for ages, until a quarter moon begins to rise. Rowdy has been watching the whole thing, and he seems confused, looking to me, then to Rose. He starts to lick the salt off my feet. "Time to go," I say finally. "We'll get some cover on the other side of the dune until we get down to the mouth. We've got no choice then, out into the open. We'll have to run to get out to the water. Stick together. Signal, no talking." There's no movement on the other side of the river, and the sand under our feet means we can move quietly. Finally, we get to the beach and start our run to the water. The tide's slacker now, but there's still a strong pull. I feel Rose take my hand and together we wade across. Rowdy is ahead of us, already on the other bank. He knows something's up and he needs to keep quiet. Just as it starts to get shallower and we think we're in the clear, a noise erupts behind us. In the weak moonlight I can see half a dozen figures silhouetted across the top of the dune. "Water!" a man's voice yells, and it sounds like pain and anger mixed together. "Water!" Rose grabs my arm so tight her fingernails dig into my skin. She doesn't stop moving, doesn't turn around, just pulls us both onto the bank, lets go of my arm and starts running for cover. I come after her and find her crouched under the first line of tea trees. The screaming from the other bank hasn't let up, but the noise of the waves and the wind in the trees drown out the words until it sounds like a dog howling. Rose squats on her haunches, and her whole body seems to be heaving with the effort to breathe. I can hear the snot in her nose with each inhale. "Don't let them get me. I can't go back," she says. Her voice cracks. "We have to move." I find the way to the track that takes us under the old viewing platform and away to safety on the hill overlooking the river. It's not until we are getting close to my place that doubt starts to creep in. I've been living here on my own for so long, it's like I'm about to break something sacred. Something that's just been about Rowdy and me. We've guarded it, protected it, hidden it away. It's our secret, and now I'm going to share it with someone I've known for only a couple of hours? How do I know I can trust her? How do I know she's not in with the Wilders and waiting to lead them here when she finds out where we live? I slow my pace. She knows what's going on straight away. "You can blindfold me if you want to," she says. I can hardly see her in the dark now, and a thought comes into my head. I could leave her here. It'd be easy. But there's a stronger feeling that makes my mind up for me. It comes from what she said back there under the tea trees. How angry and how deep it was. "No, it's okay," I say. "Just follow close." We cut through the houses to climb the hill for a couple of blocks. Then trace the line of she oaks that drop their needles like a carpet until we come out by my back shed. I hold up my hand and peer around the corner at the house. Everything is quiet. "Clear," I whisper, as we walk across the yard. Rowdy brushes past and goes straight to his blanket in the corner. I know my way around the house without even thinking, but she'll be unfamiliar with everything. I grab one of the kitchen chairs and ease her into it. On top of the mantelpiece, I find the torch and switch it on. She starts at the sudden light. "You've got light," she says. "Batteries." I keep the beam pointed at the floor. My dad owned the hardware before. Before. In the glow of the torch, I can see her nod. "Look around," I say. "Get your bearings. I can't afford to leave the torch on for long. The batteries are precious." She follows the beam around the kitchen. It's strange looking at it like this, breaking up something I know so well into smaller parts for her to take in. The sink, the fridge with its pilot light glowing soft down by the floor, the table and chairs. I realise I've never moved any of the other chairs out, even though there's only ever been me here, like I've been waiting for someone else to turn up. "A fridge," she says a little too loud. "Gas. I'll explain later." She squats down on the floor and reaches her hand to the pilot light like it might not be real. "Come with me," I say. I show her the lounge room, the bedrooms, the bathroom. "Tank water," I say before she asks. Had a wet spring, so plenty at the moment. Back in the kitchen, we sit down, and I turn off the torch. The darkness swamps us again until my eyes adjust, and I make out shapes I'm used to. I open the fridge and take out the rabbit I cooked last night. Somehow, it's easier talking to her in the dark. "The fridge?" she asks. "Gas bottles," I say. "When everything was falling apart, Dad and me moved a heap of them into the sheds around town. I know where they all are. Won't last forever, but at least I've got fuel for now." There's a long silence, Then, with just the sound of me cracking the bones of rabbit as I pull it apart, I find a plate on the sink and put the meat on it. The gamey smell fills the kitchen. I move around, pulling down all the blinds and shutting the doors, like I've done so many times on my own. I want to see her now, so I light the candle I keep on the side bench. She looks different in its glow, softer. I can't see her cuts and scrapes and scars. Hungry? I ask. Without taking the time to answer, she grabs a piece of rabbit and pushes it into her mouth, chewing and breathing hard. Then she takes another piece and another. Easy, I say. I take a piece of meat before it's all gone. She gnaws on the bones, breaking them open and sucking the marrow out. Sorry, she says. I haven't eaten cooked food in a while. Her eyes are still darting around the room, like there might be danger lurking somewhere. That's okay. I take what's left of the rabbit and give it to Rowdy. When I look back, Rose is slumped over her arms, her head turned sideways, and, as best I can tell, her eyes are closed. I tap her shoulder and she reels back in her chair. Down the hall, I say, pointing. Bedroom on the right. Okay, she says. Thanks. But tell me, what's with the growly voice? I'm kind of relieved to get it out of the way. I had trouble talking when I was little. Something to do with the muscles in my mouth. I guess the last couple of years on my own haven't helped. She doesn't say anything, just nods, gets to her feet, and backs away down the hallway. I hear the bedroom door close. I sit at the table a little while longer, trying to figure out whether it's a good or a bad thing that she's shown up. She's brought the Wilders into town. That'll be a problem. I'll have to be more careful. No surfing for a while. And I'll have to take care going out to check the traps. She has thrown up a whole new set of problems to deal with. But something else is sitting at the back of my mind too. Something that knows how good it feels to have someone with me. Someone to take the edge off the loneliness. But she's so wary of everything, I can't be sure she'll stay. Something else is nagging at me. The name the Wilder called out from the other side of the river. I heard it loud and clear. Warder. I'll ask her about it in the morning. Later, as I lie in bed, I listen for the familiar sounds of the house. The wind in the big cypress at the side, the ends of the branches rubbing against the spouting, Rowdy snorting and farting and changing position on his blanket. There's something new in the feel of the place now that a girl is here. I can't even bring myself to say her name out loud yet. But in the dark, I roll it around on my tongue. Rose. It has a round feel to it, and I have to make a circle with my lips to get the O sound. First, just a whisper, all breath. I move the sound further up, away from my throat, and it starts to take on the shape of her name. Rose.